Hi guys, thank you for joining today's session. Today's presenter will be Ezra. If you have any other questions, please drop in the Q&A. Ezra will reply to you after this meeting end. Thank you. Ezra, over to you.
Uh, so sorry guys for keeping waiting. We had some kind of technical issues regarding the internet connection. So very fast. So I like to jump in very fast. I'll try to make the session as as short as possible because of your time. So today we are going to focus on some of the new inventions and new features that are based on Pano S 10.0. So I'm trying to assume that most of you guys know Palo Alto next generation firewall, but also again, I don't want to assume so much. I'll try to talk a little bit about what's happening or what has been happening before. We talk about the ML based, next generation firewall. So going a little bit, maybe 2 to 3 years back, 13 years back, Palo Alto, the company, this is the time that the first next generation firewall was pioneered into the industry. So this means that the kind of disruption that came made people have a different perception on how cybersecurity solutions are supposed to be consumed in the market. So this guy called Neil Zook, who always keeps on innovating and inventing, had some kind of a special outlook on how cybersecurity should be approached, because this is because some of the legacy solutions were not working before. Now, before Neil Zook started Palo Alto, he used to work at Checkpoint. I normally talk about this because when we look at Checkpoint, then it was the leader in the UTM industry, which were some kind of a second generation of firewalls, which focused on a stateful inspection, and now started focusing on more of a a holistic approach when it comes to content. Trying to have some kind of IPS capabilities in it. So in the year 2005, when Neil Zook started next generation, Palo Alto Networks. So before, there were some kind of plain network level firewalls that were focusing on just small features based on layer 3 and layer 4. Then later on, Neil Zook thought that there's some kind of a way that we need to have more visibility. We normally talk about when you don't have visibility on what you're talking about, when you don't have visibility on what is happening on the network, then you cannot be able to protect this. Some of the nice features that we always see are that, NSS Labs talks about 98% about the engine, how it can be able to work better than other solutions. So why all this? This is because, the betterment. How can you be able to have more of machine learning capabilities? How can you be able to have, the core, the intelligence being beefed up to be able to protect more than, just other solutions can be able to do. So 13 years down the line, after again they created the first disruption, which was the next generation firewall, having visibility, application identification, content identification. Then later on, they had to come they had to come up with something that also is causing some kind of disruption. So we're going today to focus, talk about sensors that when you get to the office, most especially during this COVID season, we're going to see a lot of contactless solutions which are going to they can also be able to capture all those kind of business requirements. Things like time and attendance, trying to authenticate that who is coming in. So a user is coming in, let's say.
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, sure, thanks. Because I saw some guys reporting about some technical issues on the connection point. So we were talking about this kind of how someone can be able to come in during this COVID season and they cannot be able to use just the touching that we were talking about, but again leveraging some of the basic functionalities, like NFC, which again provides some kind of contactless access or maybe detection. And so some of these devices sometimes can be connected to the network, and we might lose some kind of visibility on which kind of device came at what given time. So again, as data is keeping on getting out of hand from the normal architecture or legacy designs, we used to have two sections. One is private and public. Now we're having data that is now everywhere. People are working from home, people are working. We've got a lot of mobile workforce just like before. So here we need to make sure that we are having solutions that can be able to address all these kind of challenges. So here, what's happening? Let's look at some of the scenarios that are more focusing on the kind of reactive approach or manual response that we normally have. For example, when you look at it, you find that in the industry, someone has to be attacked, someone has to be hacked into before things happen. They create these kind of signatures and they distribute them. So we're talking about 206 days when patient zero, which we normally say the first guy to be attacked, so that these guys can be able to understand that we've got this kind of a malware. Guys, please can you create some kind of signatures? Then they can be able to propagate them or maybe push them out there to the devices. Then we're talking about also this kind of a casino that got a very serious breach through some kind of a casino, a casino fish tank or aquarium that had some sensors which were communicating to the cloud, where it had some kind of a console, and it was also able to have some kind of another leg connected to the network to have also the NOC team being able to go or look into some of the parameters. So these guys were able to get through this kind of the IoT device that had some kind of vulnerabilities, and they were able to get into the network. So again, because of this kind of lack of visibility, so they were able to have this kind of data getting out of the network, and they were able to steal more than 2 million user IDs from this casino. It was one of the casinos that was being frequented for quite some time. Then also we having this kind of report from Gartner that talks about most of the attacks, like 99% of the firewall breaches, they normally come through human errors that emanate from misconfiguration. Let's say you're having some kind of a noise in the network, and you say, I want to have a policy of any, then I'll fix it later. Then someone gets. So is there another smart way in which you can be able to combat this? How can we reduce these kind of patient zeros? How can we make sure that we identifying these new variants that are coming as a sign of the kind of automated machines, which get automatically the new malware? They studied, they know how to make use of this kind of malware, then they automate or make some kind of some small kind of variations, then they unleash it. So what it means is that if the firewall had some kind of signatures or hashes, it means that this kind of hashes will not be able to be detected, like the first way it had a footprint and created this kind of signatures. So here it means that how can we be able to identify these new variants and devices without relying on this kind of signatures? Can we be able to have a solution like that? So this again required a lot of invention and innovation, coming up with something, a disruption that was never done before. Just like the way Palo Alto did this kind of disruption by coming up with the first next generation firewall in the year 2007. I mean, organizations have got some kind of resources that are not, again, that cannot be able to suffice with the organizational requirements. So how can you be able to have a second guy, a second IT officer, a second IT resource that can be able to do policy recommendations automatically? This is something again that is on another level. How can we be able to use machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to detect these kind of devices that like the one that was in that casino, and try to come up with the best policies based on the vulnerabilities that are associated with that kind of firmware, and how this kind of combating this kind of special attacks or this kind of special adversaries that are emanating from IoT or other devices that you may not have visibility on, because most of the guys focus on, I'm trying to protect this server, I'm trying to protect these kind of resources. Then how can you be able again to leverage on the cloud scale resources to be able to have this kind of continuous data acquisition, data gathering, and having some kind of machine learning and intelligence to be able to continuously have this solution to be able to learn new kind of metrics. So, ladies and gentlemen, we again focusing on, we are going to get the first in the industry, the first machine learning powered next generation firewall. So 4 weeks ago, we had this kind of a big launch of PanOS 2.0. So today I'll not talk about the 73 plus new features in this kind of the latest release, but I'll try to mention just a few things that are commendable in this session that will make you start thinking about how can you be able to approach security in the best way. What is the kind of value that Palo Alto is bringing again into the industry that is causing not only disruption but completely changing the overall outlook on what firewalls are supposed to be doing? So the first key component I'll talk about is bringing machine learning to the core of the security. What does this mean? We are not going to more focus on the signatures because signatures are not resilient enough. Talking about these kind of variants that we are getting from the automated machines or bots that are changing this kind of malware so that they can try to evade the normal firewalls which are relying on the signatures. So the instant protection from the threats using machine learning capabilities ensures that you can be able to get protection of more than 95% of unknown files and web-based threats using this kind of inline machine learning capabilities. So look at it like trying to bring the sandbox environment into the core of the firewall. Again, guys, it's worth noting that this is not just something like it's out of line, like passive or maybe querying some kind of a device somewhere, but again, inside the core, leveraging on this kind of cloud technologies which continuously provide algorithms that make these things matter. Palo Alto has been working on this kind of technology for more than 3 years, trying to perfect this art. Then again, another key thing that we can talk about here, I talked about how Wildfire was the leading again the industry on the fastest delivery of signatures. So here we are talking about now sub-second. We used to talk about 5 minutes. Now we're talking about sub-second, a single digit in terms of the delivery of signatures. So we're talking about almost 100%, if not 99.5 reduction in the system is going to be affected. The patient zero, the guys who have to be attacked for this, for this kind of attack to be known and signatures delivery. So they normally call this zero delay, which is near real-time protection via signatures now. So this is a combination of the two solutions, again making again Palo Alto, giving it another life of a new level. So another key thing again, you can see that most of these things are industry first. Maybe if there is another solution that you guys know that is doing this, please let me know in the Q&A so that we can also have some kind of a brief discussion on what's going on. So another thing here we're also going to focus on is that the solution that can be able to identify automatically that we are seeing some kind of new solutions which again have been identified into the network. So the beta version of this was able to do more than 3 times the discovery of what's going on in the network using maybe new protocols, some traffic that has some kind of special characteristics of an IoT device, and being able to automatically create signatures or policies that can be able to combat the vulnerabilities that were seen before. Then another thing is the automatically recommending policies that based on what we've seen on the network, on this traffic, we can be able to come up with special policies that we can be able to push to you and see if this is something that can work for you. By doing this, we are going to mitigate all these kind of risks that are emanating from things like misconfigurations that are coming from human errors. Maybe you did any and you just forgot that this is supposed to be happening. So here it means again that we are going to have completely some new value in the same network security platform. So if you kind of look at these kind of policies, these kind of subscriptions, you can see that threat prevention, this is something that we had before, but using these machine learning capabilities, there's some value that has been added into this. So threat prevention is again one of the subscriptions that enables you to have protection against malwares, viruses, spywares, and all these kind of solutions. So more of IPS IDS capabilities in the platform. Then we have got URL filtering, which is again a rich database of URLs that have been beefed up and structured in a way that they can be able to have got different categories. For example, have high level, maybe low level risks, critical risks, which again you can use to have some policies. For example, based on this kind of URL categories, I want to say that I want to make sure that I'm decrypting all the high risk category of URLs to make sure that I am having visibility or insights to whatever is happening on the network. Then again, we can also have this wildfire, which is the sandboxing solution that can also be able to have this kind of special files that have not been seen before. Being analysts, try to go a little bit more levels and understand what's going on. Then being able to have this kind of verdicts delivered and a policy now can be used against this. Then DNS security, which is something that no guys are doing this in the market, especially the vendors in the cyber security or our competition. The only one that is coming a little bit closer is again I'm going to talk about Cisco umbrella that again is doing this from the cloud, not inline as we normally do. Then IoT security being as part of the platform was again another milestone on the 10.0. So DLP capabilities. So instead of having a different solution or doing the DLP capabilities, the solutions like Smartech, Digital Guardian, Forcepoint, now we're talking about having all these capabilities in the core. Remember all these kind of solutions that we have, or these kind of subscriptions and capabilities were being done by point solutions, different solutions coming together in order to protect you or have security approach against these attack vectors. Then SaaS solution. So this software as a service whereby you can be able to get special protection against software as a service. Talking about enterprise solutions like G Suite, Office 365, Slack, all these kind of enterprise solutions. Then Global Protect, which is again adding some value. We're talking about 75 plus or 73 plus features, new features that are in Palo Alto 10.0. So one of the features that is worth noting is the device ID or device identification, having special characteristics or to be able to identify maybe a laptop or a mobile phone based on some kind of immutable features. So this again added some layer of security by one trying to isolate a device until or quarantining it until it's cleaned or remediated. This is the time that you can be able to get into the network. So someone is moving from one SSID to another SSID, still being able to understand that this is the same guy, same device, trying to traverse the network, and you still get the same consistent policies being applied across the platform, despite which network that you're getting, or this despite which kind of person logging in into this device. So based on things like if you do like for example WMIC query, you can be able to understand which is the serial number of this device. Having some special information about the hardware identification, you can be able to combine these solutions to have some kind of device identification. So all these things again have been built into Global Protect, which used to be our remote access VPN solution, but now having more capabilities. So we're not talking about a remote access VPN solution only, but a solution now that has been advanced. It's worth noting that Global Protect is not something that is normally licensed. If you want to have just plain remote access, for example, if you want to access services from the remote to the enterprise, for example, you want to access some files in the DC. For that, there's no charge that is needed. But if you want to get these kind of special features, things like NAC capabilities, trying to understand what is the security status of the laptop or for this ID before it accesses the resources, some critical resources. So this is where again Global Protect was advanced into another level. So this is when you need this kind of subscription. Then SD1, which is another enterprise solution that we normally talk about, if you want to have this kind of a smart scaling or improving the user experience, by having intelligent routing of applications, being able to detect all these things from the branch level. So this again makes the platform bigger and having value than before. So for the hardware series, some of the new inventions that were done here, we're talking about 700 plus gigabits per second threat prevention throughput. So not just firewalling throughput or just a switch level throughput. We're talking about threat prevention throughput of 700. This is the first in the industry, which is almost 3 times of what our competitor is doing. Again, we used to be against still the leaders. We used to do 350 gigabits per second, which is again one of the fastest threat prevention throughput-based firewall. Then another new invention is about the CN series. If you can see the software, we have got a VM series that I believe everybody's doing, protecting us against these malicious guys on the infrastructure level under virtualization. We have got IaaS, again, which you can be able to provide a VM solution or a VM-based or a firewall. But now the new invention here is the CN series, which is now the containerized firewall. Again, the industry's first. Nobody's doing this. We used to have, again, 2 solutions, one of it being a Twistlog, and another solution that also was making sure that we can have protection on containers and serverless computing. So we slowly trying to pull these kind of solutions to make sure that they can be offered just from one platform. So container series is again is first in the industry to boost the container-based security on things like Kubernetes or other solutions that we can normally use to have this kind of Docker solutions. So another one is the cloud service, which is Prism Access, whereby you can be able to get firewall as a service on different locations. So these are again some of the solutions that were worth mentioning at this point. So we might not talk about all these solutions today, but I really encourage you guys to, if you can be able to have some good time, kindly log into Palo Alto's site to be able to get all these more than 75 capabilities. So we'll not talk about most of the features today in our discussion again because of time, and now that again the schedule was a little bit tight. So we're talking about some kind of innovations, things like the solution being able to consume open source signatures like Snort, that kind of a format. So Snort used to be one of the key things that Cisco Firepower Services was using, especially for those NGOs or government organizations that have this kind of a requirement. So now we can be able to consume these kind of signatures without any kind of an issue. So again, please, I encourage you guys to be able to log into the session and being able to get this. So Pamela is asking that do we need the license to enable machine learning on the firewall? Pamela, no, this is just some value that was created. What you need to do is just upgrading your firewall. It is now GA from last week. So you can be able to get this. So the firewall is using inbound and outbound data traffic as inputs to machine learning. Exactly. So this is in the core of security. This is not out of the site. So if you enable SD1 on the firewall, you won't need routers and edge. So you have full SD1 architecture. Pamela, this is true. This is true. So here, what it means here, I remember there are some guys who wanted just a firewall to do, like, I saw Cisco routers to just site-to-site VPN solution. So we have got three types of VPNs. We have got clientless, we've got also client-based, which is now the Global Protect, and site-to-site. So here, what it means is that now the firewall can be able to use some kind of special metrics to be able to do this kind of routing. So for example, if someone is trying to access Office 365 from the branch, you can be able to be routed direct to the internet, because we understand that Office 365 is residing somewhere on the cloud. So instead of using the same MPLS line or list line, so creating this kind of congestion, you can just be able to go directly. So here, what it means here is that the firewall is able to do all these kind of layer 3 and dynamic routing protocols. So we're supporting BGP, we're supporting ICS, RIP, all these kind of protocols. Then again, can be able to, you don't need to have these kind of edge routers, by the way. You can be able to have all these kind of functionalities. But now, this is again intelligent routing, not just routing you see based on the IP, but having some special metrics being looked into. For example, if you have got two links, it can be able to see that I think this link has been doing some good service in terms of delivery. Having applications, it has got some minimal latency and a lot of this what you call browning, whereby you can be able to get the link is not down, having 3 timeouts, then it comes in, then goes, see this link will look that it's up unless maybe the threshold is reached that. So it means that you get all these kind of functionalities in the solution. So it does more than I believe that routers will be out of the market maybe going forward with this kind of new and smart capabilities. So if you're doing most of the routing functionalities, I think maybe you might need some kind of a little bit big hardware. But here it means that this kind of special capabilities, this kind of intelligent routing, this kind of intelligent security, again ensures that we're getting more from this kind of firewall, just like apart from having this kind of protection. So guys, again, please, if you have a question, you can always drop it there. So here, what it means again is that we're not having any special kind of licensing that is coming on board. So again, all these kind of new value that is coming, machine learning, for example, for wildfire, which is number 3, sandboxing environment, it has boosted it. Being the industry leader with 5 million signatures delivery, it boosted wildfire. So the same wildfire subscription can be able to leverage on this kind of machine learning to be able to reduce from 5 minutes to 9 seconds or less than 10 seconds, what we saw here. That it can be able now to do less than seconds signature delivery, resulting to 99.5 reduction in systems getting infected, or what we call patient zero. These guys are going to be attacked. So all these kind of things, like in URL filtering. So again, it's also enriching this to be able to now detect this kind of threat, web-based threats in real time. So one of the features again that most of the guys normally have is the URL filtering, which again does a lot of stuff, increasing automation. For example, let's say you don't have much time to have these kind of policies being created each and every day. So you can have one policy that is saying that if you see this kind of category of URLs, for example, these are malicious URLs based on the categorization. Again, you can always check how they do this kind of categorization. Based, for example, as this site received malware attacks before, as it seen some data breach. So this is how they normally do this kind of grading. So you can say that if these guys are trying to access this category of URLs, for example, phishing sites, I'll block all the downloads, for example, for EXEs, executable, portable executable files. So you can leverage this, which means that you're going to have a lot of automation inside this solution. So again, having the same intelligence, machine learning capabilities in line to be able to do this. So most of these things, by the way, nobody's doing in the market. This again has pushed the bar a little bit higher for how NGFWs are supposed to be doing this. So I believe in the Gartner now, the next release that's supposed to be coming, apart from being leaders for more than 8 years now, we'll see Palo Alto going, I think, almost finishing the upper side of the square of the upper right square, what they normally call the quadrant. So these kind of capabilities, nobody's doing this, by the way. Let me pick a few from this slide. For example, DNS security, which protects us against DGS, which are dynamically generated algorithms. Again, using URL filtering and also having some kind of machine learning capabilities in it, it can be able to detect these short-lived URLs or domains. For example, a domain that is lasting for 5 seconds. So if you do the query, you go to third-party threat intelligence platforms to be able to query this. Have you seen this URL before? Where does it normally resolve to? Are these good, guys? Before you do that one, that URL is not again existing. So DNS embraces this kind of protection by having some kind of a special machine learning algorithms that can detect these kind of signatures because they are pattern based. For example, they can say URL Facebook 41, URL Facebook 42, URL Facebook 43. So it can be able to detect this kind of patterns. Then on IoT again, this is machine learning, being able to detect some special patterns in the traffic to be able to detect that this is an IoT device. These devices are, proliferating the infrastructure like never before, and you'll see most of these, more especially now that we've got this kind of a pandemic season, whereby we want to have a lot of automation in the network. Then DLP, another very handy solution. We had this before, but again on the SaaS solution that was cloud-based. But again, this coming to the platform having this kind of enterprise scale capabilities. The DLP capabilities that we had before were a little bit skewed, but now with this kind of a solution in the platform, it's going to have more functionalities, more customization, more classification of the content. So all these kind of features again are focused on how can you be able to bring the intelligence, having the intelligent security or intelligent cyber security. So this is again the focus that we talking about here. So again, guys, I don't want to go much into this because these slides are a little bit long. But I just wanted us to have first that kind of an overview about what's going on, what we have, and how can we be able to leverage all these kind of solutions to be able to do more. So if we don't have questions at this point, so I'll request guys to leave it at this point so that maybe if you have some kind of other engagements, then you can be able to do. So I highly recommend guys, please get online. Just search Panorama 10.0. For those guys who have access to the portal, please check out some new features. For those who might need maybe to have maybe some kind of an OVA to play around with, you can always reach out to me. I can see if I can be able to get you some kind of a demo, part of a VM-based firewall. You can play around with it, see some new features. By the way, it really looks so nice. I don't know whether you guys can be able to give me maybe 2 minutes or 1 minute. I try to power up one of my VMs so that you can see some kind of a special outlook on how this solution looks like, if you guys don't mind. It really had a complete workout from the graphical user interface, all these things, all these kind of capabilities. Just a minute, let me power on this firewall so that you can have a feeling on how it looks like. So if you had some kind of an overview or answer on how this looked before, it really got better. So just a minute, I'm trying to power up my. So we got a couple of slides, but that we might not look into. So this is trying to talk about what's the the requirements of this kind of IoT. It's more. So guys, please, if you have questions as I'm powering this up, let's have a discussion around it. So I normally like sessions being interactive because I know you guys have been in the industry for quite some time. So feel free to ask any question and we can have some small discussion around it. 43. Oh, there we go. So one thing what you're noticing is that remember the other firewall, the previous versions, whenever you're trying to log in, so they'll tell you that you're running on a default password. So please change. So for this one, it automatically lets you change this by force as one of the security requirements. So you have to change upon the first login to be able to proceed. So you can't change, just get into the firewall without changing. So this is how it looks like. So some kind of complete workout. You have logged out due to unknown reason. I don't know what the reason. I haven't seen this before. So maybe because of the first session and we've changed the password. So the session timed out. So we need to log in afresh so that you can see how it looks. So there we go. All right. So there I love the new graphical user interface. It looks cool. You get this kind of a pop-up. Always when we have something, they normally talk about some of the new smart stuff that are happening, some of the new features that you're getting. Like what I talked about, Global protects identification and quarantine of compromised devices. So control access of compromised devices on your network by tracking the devices by unique attributes. These things like hardware serial numbers, unique host information, and all these kind of smart solutions out there. So IPS signature converter talked about this, being able to convert snort and suricata. So this is again some of the smart features that you guys can use. By the way, also high availability clustering. We never used to have this, so which means that you can have a couple of firewalls being clustered to work hand in hand, like the way Checkpoint used to do. So enhanced SSL decryption troubleshooting. By the way, now you can be able to support things like SSL version 1.3 without uh, downgrading. We used to downgrade it to TLS version 1.2 for us to do more of troubleshooting, but now we can be able to do all this without any issues. So another thing is some kind of nice troubleshooting around the decryption, streamlined resilient distribution, that is USID mappings to other solutions, wildfire real-time signatures. So we talked about this zero delay, and then we also talked about containerized next generation firewalls. If we close this and okay, later, so under monitor, you will see we'll have decryption here. So this under decryption, it will tell you about which kind of decryption are you using. Is there some certificates in the networks that have got expired certificates? Are you having some certificates with weak ciphers? Are you having some kind of certificates or some kind of IKE infrastructure that is not conforming the policy? So all these kind of stuff, you'll see them here. You'll see the certificate have some kind of outlook on how what is happening inline. So this completely changes or enhances how we do decryption and helps us to onboard this a little bit faster by limiting this kind of things like I'm not sure about what's happening, or I'm not sure about what will happen if I'm going to implement this and maybe some applications crash. So this is how all these solutions look like. It's only that this is not populated yet. So all these kind of SD1 is here. Of course, you need a license for you to configure this. Then what else? A lot of stuff. So for Global Protect, the one that has to be subscribed now, this is where you get all these kind of heap objects or information profiling or protocol. Then again, for you to have these kind of capabilities, you can see down here, there is some kind of a license requirement. So you can have more policies. For example, this is a mobile device, so host information. So if you check this, you can do based on which kind of OS. So these are some of the I can call it what? Some kind of requirements. So some kind of conditions that you are going to create. For example, you're going to create is it managed or not? So how is this going to, maybe you can have some kind of a policy for Mac OS. So the OS contains which kind of version is or is not, host ID, serial number. So you can all have this kind of special unique structuring of characteristics that are going to be matched against. Then have this kind of a mobile device with again its own unique identification based on OS, patch level, which kind of OS it is, all these kind of nice features here. So guys, I really recommend check out there. Again, all these are some of the parameters that you can be able to come up with. So anti-malware, disk backup, disk encryption, DLP. So guys, please again check out for these nice features that you can again use in this OS. So unless there's a question, maybe I'll try to see if we can be able to end this session here. I appreciate. Thanks for checking in or logging in for this session. I hope it was informative or it's informative. So until next time, I see you guys.